Hey guys, tonight we begin with a story set under a golden sun that doesn't just shine, it watches. A world where your morning routine might involve a pyramid, a priest with very sharp tools, and a strong possibility you don't make it to lunch. You're about to step into the Aztec Empire, land of feathers, stone, and absolutely no concept of a chill day. Spoiler, you might not survive your first sunrise. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me in the comments where you are watching from, and what time it is. Midnight in Madrid, 3 a.m. in Toronto. I love seeing our little community of curious night owls from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake up to drums, not alarm clocks, not birdsong drums. Low, slow, bone, deep rhythms pulsing through the reed walls of your sleeping hut like a heartbeat for the entire city. It's not music, it's a schedule. And today, your name is on it. Outside, Tenochtitlan is already humming. Stone streets being swept clean, smoke curling from family kitchens, and temple attendants brushing pollen off flower garlands, like nervous interns prepping for a royal visit. You stretch, but not too much. Someone might see you slacking, and in this world, slacking could get you volunteered for things you'd rather not be part of, like ritual dances, or worse. You were born here, under the rule of mighty Moctezuma II, in a city built on a lake and powered by prayers and blood, not metaphorical blood, the real kind. You've grown up knowing that the sun must be fed, and the food it likes best walks on two legs and tries to act chill about its destiny. Today is a festival day. That's exciting in the same way that skydiving is exciting, mostly for other people. For you, it means dressing up in your best feathered cloak and trying not to trip on a cobblestone in front of the high priest. You step outside and get a face full of incense. Copal, thick and sweet, clings to everything: your hair, your skin, your uncertainty. You pass by a group of warriors painting their faces with black ash and red pigment. They nod at you, solemnly. You nod back. Because what else do you do when someone smeared in jaguar spots gives you a look that says, this festival may or may not end in decapitation? As you make your way toward the Templo Mayor, the city's great twin, temple pyramid, you remember what your older cousin told you once, very dramatically, and with far too much eye contact. The sun eats hearts, he whispered. If it doesn't eat, it sleeps. And if it sleeps, we die. That's the general vibe of your theology class here. The world, according to Aztec belief, has been created and destroyed 4 times already. Not metaphorical poetic rebirths, actual resets. Giant jaguars, floods, fire, cosmic winds. The universe doesn't play around. This, the 5th world, is your last chance, and the sun god, Teneshu, is kind of high maintenance. He demands payment in full, every day. Guess what the currency is? Right, it's you. Well, not you personally yet. Today you're just part of the massive procession up to the temple plaza. There are dancers in brilliant turquoise, flutes whistling out spiraling melodies, and children tossing marigold petals into the air, like confetti at the world's most intense parade. You keep your eyes low. Don't stare too long at the warriors. Don't gawk at the bound captives being led forward, dressed like gods in glittering costumes. That part is sacred, also awkward. Some of them look calm, not joyful, exactly, but not panicked either. Your neighbor leans toward you and whispers, the one in red is from Tlaxcala, a flower war catch. She says it like she's talking about a rare fruit. You nod like you understand. You don't. Here's something they don't print on tourist postcards. Aztec wars weren't always about conquest. Sometimes they were about harvest, not of corn, but of people. Captives taken in flower wars were basically prestige offerings. Not prisoners, more like reluctant honored guests at the world's most intense going-away party. You finally reach the plaza. The pyramid towers above you, steep and silent. Its steps rise like a staircase to the gods. And somewhere up there, the rituals are already beginning. Drums beat faster. The flutes grow shrill. You hear a chant rise, an ancient rhythm passed down from the time when stars had claws. This is where the magic happens, or the maintenance. Because in this world, the gods aren't distant and chill. They are very much involved, very much needy, and kind of dramatic. Teneshu, the sun god, was famously cranky. He demanded hearts, not because he was evil, but because being the sun is exhausting. Every day, he wrestles the sky, fights off darkness, and keeps the world from collapsing. You try doing that without caffeine. No wonder he's moody. There's a flash of movement at the top of the steps. A priest appears, arms outstretched. He's painted head to toe, his robe fluttering like wings. Something glints in his hand, a ceremonial blade made of obsidian. Volcanic glass so sharp, it makes steel cry. He moves with practiced grace. This is not his first sacrifice. You feel a tug, not on your sleeve, but in your mind, a strange cocktail of reverence, fear, and weird curiosity. You're part of something enormous, terrifying, and absolutely normal. To live here is to understand that death isn't the end. It's a fuel source. The heart doesn't just beat for you. It beats for the universe. The crowd goes quiet. Then the priest lifts a heart, slick and red, to the sky. The sun catches it for one surreal second, and you swear it glows. Someone next to you starts crying. Someone else begins to pray. And you just stare. Because in that moment you realize this isn't barbaric to them. It's breakfast for the cosmos. Without it, the stars fall, the crops wither, and the whole world starts over. Again, historians still debate just how frequent or widespread human sacrifice truly was in Aztec society. Some think the numbers were exaggerated by the Spanish. Others believe we still haven't grasped the full scope of it. But standing here, in your own sandals, it doesn't feel like numbers. It feels like gravity. The drums slow, the wind shifts, people begin to murmur, then move, returning to their homes, their stalls, their studies. You stand in place for a while longer, watching the blood run down the temple steps like dark wine on stone. It doesn't feel real, and yet, it's the realest thing you've ever seen. You head home in silence. You don't talk about what you saw, but later, lying on your mat, you wonder, if the sun really needs hearts to rise, then whose is next? You're not used to early mornings, but this one has a specific kind of pressure, existential pressure. Today, the sun didn't just rise, it dragged itself over the horizon, groaning like a god who didn't get enough sleep. And in a way, that's exactly what happened. Because in this world, the sun is alive, tired, and a little dramatic, and you, yes you, are one of the reasons it made it up there at all. At least, that's what your priest, teacher says during morning instruction, between lighting incense and swatting away a parrot who keeps trying to eat the ceremonial corn. You must feed the sun, he says, holding a tiny carved idol in one hand and a cup of chocolate in the other. Without blood, the sky forgets us. You nod like this makes perfect sense. But it's early. You haven't had your breakfast tortilla yet, and the idea of the sun forgetting you before dawn is a little much. Still, this is what you've grown up with. It's not a myth, it's logistics. The gods gave you the world. In return, they ask for payment. Not coins, not clout, but energy. And nothing holds divine calories quite like warm, rhythmic, human blood. According to the temple scholars, those wise folks who paint sacred codices and argue about everything, when the gods created the fifth Sunday, that's this one. By the way, they gave up a lot. Some say the gods sacrificed themselves to bring light back into the sky, which means your daily offering isn't just ritual, it's repayment. A sacred IOU, a divine blood mortgage. Here's the fun part. This belief system isn't gloomy or grim. It's practical, even optimistic. In a way, sacrifice is teamwork. The gods do their part, you do yours. Sure, it involves some slicing, but look at that beautiful sky. Totally worth it. You head to the market square later that day to help your uncle sell painted pottery. As you walk past the stalls, you hear two farmers arguing, not about prices, but about rain. One insists it hasn't come because someone accidentally used old incense in the last ceremony. The other is convinced the corn gods are just jealous and need a stronger heart next time. You pretend not to listen. But this is normal. In your world, everything is alive. The wind has moods, the moon gossips, and blood. Blood is like Wi-Fi. If the connection drops, nothing works. You sit down behind your uncle's stand, next to a basket of clay cups, shaped like jaguar heads. As the afternoon sun bakes the plaza, you try not to think about the festival tomorrow. Another big ceremony, another series of offerings. You won't be on the platform, of course, but you'll be close. Everyone is. Sacrifice isn't secret here. It's sacred theater. Your aunt joins you at sunset with roasted maize and some gossip. They say the next heart will be from Texcoco. She murmurs between bites. A captured noble, good blood, royal blood, that should please Tenacious. You nod again, trying not to wonder what exactly makes blood good. Iron levels? mood, zodiac sign. Later that night, while brushing volcanic dust off your tunic, you try to explain all this to your cousin, who's visiting from a small lakeside village. He's new to the city, still stares at the temples like they're going to lean down and wink at him. They really believe the sun needs us to bleed? He asks, raising an eyebrow like he suspects a punchline. You shrug. It's not about belief, it's just how things are. Because for you, it's not symbolic. It's structural. The gods built a machine, this world. And it runs on offerings. They bled to start it. You bleed to keep it going. You don't question it any more than you'd question whether rain needs clouds. Of course. Not everything is set in stone. Some older villagers mutter that the sun rose before there were temples. That maybe, just maybe, the gods don't need blood so much as they like the drama. But no one says that too loudly. It's not just disrespectful, it's risky. The gods might hear. And you don't want to end up a conversation starter and a ceremonial example. There's one old man, he sells chilies in the market, who once whispered to you, if blood is so powerful, why don't the gods sacrifice themselves again? They're immortal. Seems efficient. You laughed. But only because you weren't sure if he was serious or just tired of being alive. Academics today still debate whether the Aztecs truly believed the sun would die without human blood, or whether the priesthood used it as political theater, a way to unify the empire through shared fear and pageantry. But for you, none of that matters. You're not an academic. You're a citizen of Tenochtitlan Faye. And when the drums beat, you show up. That night, you dream of the sun god, not as a man but as a giant flaming face, yawning into the sky. He looks tired. You wake up in a sweat, and the first thing you hear is a familiar thump. Thump. The drums again, the city stirs, the offering begins, and somewhere deep inside, a tiny part of you wonders, what happens if one day, no one shows up? You're not used to early mornings, but this one has a specific kind of pressure, existential pressure. Today, the sun didn't just rise, it dragged itself over the horizon, groaning like a god who didn't get enough sleep. And in a way, that's exactly what happened. Because in this world the sun is alive, tired, and a little dramatic. And you, yes you, are one of the reasons it made it up there at all. At least, that's what your priest, teacher says during morning instruction, between lighting incense and swatting away a parrot who keeps trying to eat the ceremonial corn. You must feed the sun, he says, holding a tiny, carved idol in one hand, and a cup of chocolate in the other. Without blood, the sky forgets us. You nod like this makes perfect sense, but it's early. You haven't had your breakfast tortilla yet, and the idea of the sun forgetting you before dawn is a little much. Still, this is what you've grown up with. It's not a myth, it's logistics. The gods gave you the world. In return, they ask for payment, not coins, not clout, but energy. And nothing holds divine calories quite like warm, rhythmic, human blood. According to the temple scholars, those wise folks who paint sacred codices and argue about everything, when the gods created the fifth Sunday. That's this one. By the way, they gave up a lot. Some say the gods sacrificed themselves to bring light back into the sky, which means your daily offering isn't just ritual, it's repayment. A sacred IOU, a divine blood mortgage. Here's the fun part. This belief system isn't gloomy or grim, it's practical, even optimistic. In a way, sacrifice is teamwork. The gods do their part, you do yours. Sure, it involves some slicing, but look at that beautiful sky. Totally worth it. You head to the market square later that day to help your uncle sell painted pottery. As you walk past the stalls, you hear two farmers arguing, not about prices, but about rain. One insists it hasn't come because someone you're sweeping the front step when the ground shakes. Just a little, like a polite warning from beneath. A reminder, a memory. Nobody screams. No one even pauses. The flower seller 2 stalls down glances at the sky and mutters. That was the fourth one saying hello. You've heard the stories your whole life, spoken at night, told in hushed tones by ants who stir their maize gruel with the same rhythm as the ancient drum beats. There were other worlds before this one. 4 of them, each one tried. Each one failed. You live in the 5th. And every time the earth wiggles its toes under your feet, you remember what's at stake. You sit with your grandmother later, peeling prickly pears, and listening to her recount the old stories. Not myths. Memories, she insists. Passed down like heirloom pottery with a few chips in the glaze. Maybe, but still holding the truth. The first sun ended in jaguars, she says. People were eaten. No survivors. You pause. pear juice dripping from your fingers. The second sun was wind. She goes on, eyes twinkling, so strong it lifted people into the sky and turned them into monkeys. You glance upward. The sky is suspiciously quiet. No airborne monkeys in sight, but who knows? The third sun was fire. Rained down from the heavens like angry stars. You wince, thinking of the time you dropped hot coals on your foot. A whole apocalypse of that. Hard pass. The fourth sun drowned. Water everywhere. People turned into fish. She pops a fruit slice into her mouth, completely unbothered. That's why we make offerings, because if this sun gets tired, or cranky, or hungry, it's over again. You chew silently. She's not the only one who says this. It's woven into the education here. School isn't just numbers and read scrolls. It's cosmology with a side of survival strategy. You're taught not just what the gods did, but why they need you now. Because the fifth Sunday, the one you live under, didn't start easily. It was born out of chaos, uncertainty, and a divine argument over who would sacrifice themselves to get it going. In the end, one humble god leapt into the fire. Another followed, reluctantly. And now the sun moves because of that fire, and because of the blood you offer to keep it burning. You once asked your temple instructor why the gods didn't just build a better sun, one that didn't need so many updates. He gave you a look like you'd just suggested the moon was made of squash. They gave us this one, he said flatly. If you don't like it, build your own universe. Fair enough. In the temple courtyard, a giant stone disk tells the story in carvings, so intricate they look like they could crawl off the wall and start performing. The center shows the fifth Sunday, your sun surrounded by the four fallen worlds, each one destroyed in its own dramatic fashion. It's like a warning label for existence. Do not shake, do not neglect. Keep refrigerated in blood. You try not to stare at it too long. Later, you join a group heading to a ceremonial reenactment. These aren't just performances, they're lessons. Half religious fervor, half interactive historical trauma. Actors in feathered headdresses act out the fall of the previous worlds. People cheer, weep, and throw flowers. You accidentally sneeze and get blessed 3 times in a row. As you watch, it hits you. Your life isn't about you. It's about the continuation of everything. You're one tile in a mosaic, and if too many tiles crack, the picture disappears. There's a term they use a lot around here, TOTL. It means divine energy, sacred presence, the life force that runs through gods, people, even stones, and it flows strongest through sacrifice. It's like electricity, but more poetic and much harder to measure. The priest leading today's observance explains that when someone's heart is offered, their TOTL doesn't vanish, it ascends, it strengthens the gods, empowers the cosmos, reinforces the sun. It's not loss, it's redistribution. Modern scholars still debate how literal the Aztecs were about all this. Some argue it was mostly symbolic. Others say nope, 100% practical metaphysics. Still others think it was both. Part real belief, part empire, wide performance art to bind people together with shared purpose and very dramatic hats. But as you sit there, legs crossed, listening to the drums rise and fall like breath itself, you don't feel like you're watching history. You feel like you are it. You catch sight of a child, maybe 6 years old, dressed as the old god Tezcatlipoca. He waves a wooden club with surprising authority, scaring a group of older kids playing Run from the Jaguar. His mother looks on proudly. You wonder if he knows the stories yet. If he understands what happened before, and what's needed now to keep the fifth world from becoming the sixth. That night, you climb to the roof of your family's home. Tenochtitlan glows below, like a constellation flipped upside down. You stare up at the stars, but not for beauty. You're looking for signs. Is the sun happy? Is the earth steady? Are the gods watching? And most of all, is the blood you offered last week enough? Or will it take more to hold the sky together? A breeze brushes past your cheek. You smell copal and corn. The city breathes. The world spins. And you close your eyes, whispering to no one in particular, just one more day. You know that feeling when the sun's rising and it feels like it's staring directly at you. That's not paranoia. In your world, the sun is very much aware. He's got personality, preferences, and a daily commute that depends almost entirely on you, and several thousand others, doing your spiritual homework, every single day. The first time you heard the real story of Taneshu, the fifth Sunday, you were 9, bored, and trying to use your ceremonial flute as a snack holder, but then your instructor said something that made you sit up. The sun moves across the sky not because it wants to, but because it has to. You blinked, Like chores. Worse, he said. Like rowing a boat full of gods who forgot how to row. That's the energy you're working with here. You grew up learning that Taneshu, the current sun god, was a bit of a diva, but for good reason. He wasn't the first to volunteer for the role. When the gods gathered to restart the world after the fourth sun failed in a flood, as they so often do, they argued about who would leap into the sacred fire and become the new sun. Two gods stood up, Tecatl, rich and confident, and Nana Watson, poor, sickly, and humble. Spoiler, rich guy chickened out. Sick guy jumped in. Boom, sun ignited. Then, in a burst of insecure drama, the rich god followed him in, and they both became celestial bodies. Nana Watson became the sun. Tecatl, he became the moon. Dimmer, embarrassed, possibly still sulking. So now Taneshu, the sun born of fire and humility, marches across the sky daily, but only if you help. And how do you help? Blood. Not metaphorical devotion, not thoughts and prayers. Literal blood. Because pushing a star across the sky is apparently exhausting, and divine espresso shots are made of hemoglobin. You remember asking once, why does a god need us if he's so powerful? The answer came with a heavy side of disapproval. Because even gods can't do everything alone, and because you owe him. Fair. Every sunrise is a reminder. We're still here because someone somewhere paid the toll. This morning, the temple plaza is buzzing. It's not a festival, but it might as well be. A mid-season sacrifice is planned, and everyone shows up like it's the latest market gossip drop. You spot weavers pausing mid-pattern, fishmongers abandoning slippery wares, even a traveling storyteller pulling his carved flute from his belt just to get a better view. You find a spot near the back, close enough to hear the chants, far enough that you won't accidentally catch any flying sacred pollen or ceremonial elbow nudges. Atop the Templo Mayor, the priests begin their ritual. There's no rushing. No chaos. Everything is precise, choreographed, like a slow dance made of fire, smoke, and very sharp objects. The chants rise. Drums echo like a second heartbeat. You close your eyes for a moment and imagine it. Tanita, on his blazing chariot, pausing in the sky, glancing downward with an expression that says, "Well, where's breakfast?" And then the offering begins. The moment the obsidian blade flashes in the sun, the entire crowd exhales. It's not horror. It's relief. Like the sound of a bill being paid just in time, the priest lifts the heart skyward, its rhythm still echoing the drums. For a heartbeat, or two, you think the light gets warmer, brighter. Of course. That might just be the copal smoke getting to your head. A few feet away, a merchant leans toward his apprentice and whispers, "That should buy us 3 more days of good weather." You think he's joking. Then you realize he isn't. That's how people talk here. Sacrifices aren't morbid. They're maintenance. You don't offer hearts because you enjoy the drama. You do it because you've seen what happens when the balance slips. The stories of the previous suns aren't bedtime tales. They're instruction manuals. You've heard of eclipse protocol, whispered by priests. If the sun disappears even for a moment, if Taneshu stumbles on his track, everyone panics. Markets close. People kneel in the street. Chickens get worried. Emergency offerings are made fast. Some people even volunteer. You knew a boy once, barely older than you, who offered his blood during a solar eclipse. Not a full heart, just a deep cut across the earlobe and tongue. He didn't flinch. He stood there, eyes locked on the darkened sky, whispering his thanks as if the sun were a personal friend. He said afterward, "It's like giving him a push when he's tired." You didn't argue. Modern scholars still debate whether the Aztecs really thought the sun needed sacrifice to rise. Some argue it was just state ritual, a powerful psychological tool. Others suggest it was deeply held spiritual truth. The real answer, as always, probably lies somewhere in between, wrapped in layers of theology, politics, and really intense architecture. But you're not in a textbook. You're standing in a crowd, heart pounding, sun blazing above. You feel the rhythm, you know the price, and as the chants fade and the smoke thins, you breathe out. The sun is still moving. You did your part. And for one more day, the sky stays open. The day stretches out lazily. You can feel the heat sinking into your skin, the kind that settles in your bones and makes you wonder if this is what it feels like to live under a permanent midday sun. It's hard to escape the weight of the heat in Tenochtitlan, but you've learned to carry it. Like everything else, the world doesn't slow down for your discomfort. After all, the market is louder than usual, even for a city of this size. There's a buzz in the air, a bit more excitement than a normal trading day. The priests have been busy, preparing for the next grand festival, and the gossip is that it's going to be bigger than ever. Rumor has it, this time, even a few of the nobility will be joining the sacrificial procession. The idea of watching a noble spill their blood is considered an honor here. It's like the ultimate act of humility, giving everything back to the gods, even for someone whose sandals have more feathers than your whole wardrobe. As you walk through the rows of vendors, trying to avoid stepping on any overripe papayas, a familiar figure catches your eye. It's your cousin, the one who told you all those stories about the last world, the one where the jaguars roamed freely and tore through the cities like they were just hungry kittens. He's standing by a stall, talking to a stranger. He's always talking to strangers. It's kind of his thing. He makes friends easily, and sometimes those friends have information, which is useful. Information is currency here. You step closer, trying to overhear. From what you can catch, they're discussing the upcoming event. Your cousin looks excited. There's something in his eyes that makes you realize he might be planning to participate in the next ceremony. Are you sure about this? You hear him ask. His voice low but steady. The stranger, someone from a far-off village by the look of him, answers, "We don't get many chances like this. Not when the high priests are involved. It's worth the risk." You don't need to hear any more. You know what your cousin is getting at. He's got a restless streak. He's always felt like he was meant for something bigger, something more dramatic. You once caught him trying on a priest's feathered headpiece. He looked ridiculous. But if he really does join in tomorrow's ceremony, that's not something that can just be laughed off. He's not looking to be a spectator. He wants to be the offering. You glance around. Suddenly uneasy. You don't want to call attention to yourself, but you can't help but feel a bit of fear rise in your chest. The next sacrifice is expected to be a volunteer, someone who willingly offers themselves to the gods, rather than being chosen through battle or as a prisoner. You've heard the whispers of volunteers in the past, brave souls who step forward to give their hearts in a moment of ultimate devotion. But you also know there's no real turning back once you make that choice. You've seen what happens to those who choose this path. Their eyes are always wide with the realization that they might be the last one to ever see the world the way it is. Your cousin, ever the idealist, may not understand what he's about to do. Or maybe he does, but he thinks it's worth the glory, to be chosen by the gods, to give them your heart as your ancestors did to keep the sun from sinking. What an honor that must be. Or is it? As you walk away from the market, your thoughts wander back to the old stories, the ones your grandmother used to tell you while she worked her loom. The gods sacrificed themselves for us, but now we're the ones doing the sacrificing. It's a cycle, and it doesn't end until the world ends. The gods once bled to make the sun rise, and we bleed to keep it rising. But how long can this keep going? Is there an end to the cycle, or are we just waiting for another world to die, so that the next one can be born in a pile of blood and stone? That night, you can't sleep, the heat's too thick, and your mind is full of the images from the ceremony you watched earlier. The priests lifting the hearts high, the drumming that shook your bones, the smell of incense, of blood, of something ancient that hangs in the air here. You don't think it'll ever leave you. You almost wish you could be like those who don't question it, who just live for the moment, knowing they're a part of something much larger than themselves. But for you, tonight, it's all too much. You can't escape it. The sun isn't just a big burning thing in the sky, it's a hungry beast, and you've got to keep feeding it. You roll over on your mat and stare at the ceiling, trying to quiet the thoughts. It's easy to lose yourself in the idea of glory, of giving everything for a purpose so grand, but then there's the other side of it. The side that whispers about the price, the cost of all this. Your cousin's choice looms large in your thoughts. The sun might rise tomorrow, just like it did today, but will it be enough? Will it ever be enough? Historians still debate the true scope of the Aztecs' belief in sacrifice, even now, long after the empire fell. Some say it was about the gods' need for nourishment. Others believe it was an act of political unity, a way to keep the people in line, focused on a higher purpose. It's a question that remains unanswered in many ways. What was the real motivation behind the mass offerings? Was it faith, fear, power? Maybe it was all of them, or maybe it was just survival. You close your eyes, letting the distant hum of the city wash over you. The sounds of Tenochtitlan never stop, and neither do your thoughts. The night deepens, and sleep doesn't come as easily as you'd like, but eventually, it does. And as you drift off, the last thing you hear is the quiet thrum of the earth beneath you, whispering its ancient warning. You wake up to the sound of footsteps in the hallway, faint at first, but growing louder as they approach. Your heart stirs with something ancient. It's not the usual sound of market-goers passing by, but something more intentional. The way a soldier's boots hit the stone differently from an ordinary traveler's. You sit up in bed, your eyes darting to the window, where a sliver of sunlight breaks through the heavy cloth. It's barely dawn, but already, the city is alive with anticipation. Today's the day. The festival is upon you, and it's unlike any you've ever experienced before. Your cousin's plan, his idea, his desperate longing to be chosen, is taking form. You know he's out there, somewhere, walking the streets with the others who have volunteered. They don't see it as a sacrifice. They see it as the highest honor, offering their hearts to the gods, ensuring that the sun rises tomorrow. But you're not sure about this. You don't know if you believe in it the way your cousin does. Sure, everyone here believes, in one form or another, but there's a part of you that feels like it's all just a great performance, a show of devotion that keeps everyone in line. No one questions the sacrifices, not in a world built upon this foundation. And yet, your cousin wants to be part of it. He wants to be the offering, not because he has to, but because he wants to prove something, to himself, to the gods, to everyone around him. You can't stop him. You're walking through the market later, trying not to look too eager. When you see the first signs that today is unlike any other, the smell of incense fills the air, and the heavy drum beats echo from the direction of the temple. It's different than the usual rhythm of the city. The drums are louder today. Faster. They seem to carry something more than sound. You can feel it in your chest. It's the pulse of the world, and it's quickening. The streets are full of people in ceremonial garb. The women in vibrant skirts, their faces painted in bright designs. The men in jaguar skins, their eyes cold and determined. The whole city seems to hold its breath, like a giant organism preparing for something monumental. It's a reminder that you live in a place where life and death are not just concepts, they are intertwined. You find yourself walking in the direction of the temple, drawn by the pull of the crowd. You don't know what you're hoping for. Maybe that your cousin will back out at the last minute. Maybe that you'll catch a glimpse of him and change his mind. But no, this is his choice. His destiny, he thinks. You climb the steep stone steps toward the Templo Mayor, trying to steady your breathing. As you reach the top, you see it, the altar, already prepared with flowers, incense, and the sharp glint of obsidian blades. There are a few figures up ahead, priests and warriors, their faces set in expressions that are both serene and heavy with purpose. It's a sight you've seen many times before, but never like this. Today is the day the gods demand the ultimate offering. Today, it's not just a sacrifice, it's a promise, a pledge that the sun will continue its journey across the sky. As you approach, you spot him, your cousin. He's standing with the others, his posture straight, his face unreadable. You can't read his eyes, but you don't have to. You know exactly what he's thinking. He's already made his peace with the gods. He believes this is his calling. He's going to be the offering, the one who ensures the sun keeps moving. The thought makes your heart heavy. You move closer, but before you can speak, a priest steps forward. His ceremonial garb swirls around him, and his voice booms across the crowd. Today, we honor Tenatio, the sun, the giver of life. And in return, we offer the gift that ensures his journey continues. Your cousin steps forward, and the world seems to hold its breath. You wish you could stop him, tell him to think for one more second, but it's too late now. He's already committed. His fate sealed by his own will. The priest raises the obsidian blade, and your cousin kneels. His chest rises, and falls slowly as he prepares himself. You're paralyzed, standing there, watching. The drums grow louder, their thundering sound echoing like the heartbeat of the world. There's no turning back now, and then, silence. For a moment, the air is thick, almost suffocating. The priest's eyes meet your cousin's, and he nods once, as if confirming something unspoken. Without hesitation, the blade falls. The offering is made. You don't flinch. You don't scream. You stand perfectly still, because you know that in this moment, you are not the one being sacrificed. You are just the witness. And in this world, witnesses matter. They keep the balance, the cycle, turning. The crowd around you shifts. Their murmurs filling the space. You watch as the priest lifts your cousin's heart high above his head, offering it to Tenatio. The sun seems to shine a little brighter, as if acknowledging the gift. You can hear the whispers now, the ancient chants filling the air. They say that every offering of blood strengthens the gods, but it also strengthens the people. It binds them together in a way that nothing else can. And yet, even as you stand there, you can't shake the feeling that something is slipping through your fingers. The gods may be fed, the sun may rise, but at what cost? You want to ask your cousin if it was worth it, but you know the answer. To him, it was. He gave everything for the sun to keep burning. You don't know if you believe that, but you understand it. As the ceremony concludes and the crowd disperses, you stand in the temple plaza, the weight of the moment settling on your shoulders. The city is still alive, still moving, still breathing. The world didn't end today. It continues just as it always has. But you're not sure if it will ever be the same. Historians still debate whether the Aztec belief in sacrifice was truly rooted in a literal need to keep the sun alive, or if it was part of a grand ritualistic system to reinforce social order. Some argue it was a necessary tool for maintaining unity and power, while others suggest it was a deeply ingrained religious truth. The truth, like most things, is probably somewhere in between. But one thing's certain. The Aztecs believed that sacrifice was a fundamental part of their existence. And today, you've seen that belief in action. As you make your way back down the temple steps, the sun blazes hot overhead, and you can't help but wonder, what happens when the sun finally gets too tired to rise? What happens when the gods are no longer hungry? You push the thought aside. For now, the sun will rise. And for now, that's enough. The city is quieter now, as the evening stretches its long shadow over Tenochtitlan. It's the calm after the storm, after the sacrifices, after the ceremonies, after the gods have received their offerings, and the sun has completed its daily cycle. The marketplace is winding down, the music is softer, and the drums are stilled for the night. People walk slower, as if they're all just a little bit lighter, freed by the knowledge that today, the sun is content. But you aren't. You can't shake the image of your cousin, kneeling before the priest, his chest open to the gods. You watch the priest raise the heart, the blood glistening in the sunlight, offering it to Tenashu, like it's the most natural thing in the world. The crowd cheered. They applauded. They watched him fall, as though the entire city was built on this act of devotion, this offering. Your cousin's body has already been taken away, but you feel the weight of his absence like a physical thing pressing against your ribs. You know it's the way of the world here. It always has been, and always will be. You've seen it all your life, heard the stories from your grandmother, the priests, the older villagers. You've always understood that sacrifice isn't just a part of life. It's the purpose of life. The gods demand it. The sun demands it. Without the blood, the world ends. But now, standing in the quiet of the temple plaza, with the smell of incense lingering in the air like smoke that won't leave, it's hard to ignore the question that's been nagging at you since you saw your cousin volunteer. What happens when the gods have enough? The priests claim they need the blood. The city depends on it. The sun keeps burning, the crops keep growing, and the cycle continues, one heart at a time. But does it? You've heard the whispers from the older generation. There's talk of an ancient prophecy, something about the gods becoming weary of the endless demand, of the balance tipping, of the sun eventually choosing to burn out rather than continue its ungrateful journey. But no one talks about that openly. It's not the kind of thing you say out loud. Not in a world where the priests hold the power to make you disappear if they think you're a threat to the gods. The whispers are kept in corners, passed between traders and travelers, but even they can't escape the reality of the system. You wonder if anyone ever truly questions it. You're not the only one thinking it. You can see it in the eyes of people as they walk away from the plaza. The doubt, the hesitation, the wonder about what happens next, but no one dares to say it. You've heard it before. In the way the children play games, pretending to sacrifice one another with small wooden knives, laughing without truly understanding what the gesture means. But now you understand. The power in Tenochtitlan lies not just in the hearts of the gods, but in the people. The sun needs the sacrifice to survive. Yes, but the city needs the belief. The sun feeds on blood, but it thrives on faith. And without faith, what is this empire? What is any empire? As the evening deepens, the stars slowly begin to prick at the sky, like tiny holes in a blanket of black. You climb to the roof of your house, seeking space to think. The city below is a patchwork of glowing fires, moving figures, and quiet voices. You can hear the faint echo of chants, still lingering from the day's ceremony. You've always been part of this cycle. You've watched the sacrifices, seen the offerings, and nodded in quiet understanding. But now, after seeing it firsthand, something inside you has shifted. You're not sure if it's the weight of the blood, the ceremony, or just the realization that the world runs on these sacrifices. And yet, despite all the weight, despite the knowledge that today was the result of countless offerings stretching back through history, you can't help but feel an overwhelming sense of injustice. The gods take, and the people give and give. But what happens when the gods have enough? What happens when the people realize they're stuck in an endless loop, offering hearts and lives without ever being allowed to ask if it's worth it? You glance up at the stars again, letting the quiet hum of the city fill your mind. The answer is simple: as long as you don't ask, you'll never know. The city moves on, the gods remain pleased, and the sun continues its journey. You can't stop it. No one can. But you can wonder. You lie down on the roof, gazing up at the night sky. The cool night air brushes against your skin, and for the first time in a long while, you feel free. Free of the weight of the ceremony, free of the weight of the sun. You've been a part of this world for so long, and yet, now, you're not sure where you fit in it anymore. The gods have their demands, the people have their traditions, but you wonder if there's another way. Maybe you're not the only one. Maybe others feel it too. The doubt, the uncertainty, the knowledge that sacrifice is a burden placed on your shoulders without question. But for now, you close your eyes, and as the cool air brushes over you, you think about tomorrow. Tomorrow the sun will rise again. Tomorrow the cycle will begin anew. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find your way through it. You wake to the sound of silence. Not the kind of silence where everything feels peaceful and serene. This is the kind of silence that's a little too still, a little too unnatural. The usual sounds of Tenochtitlan Feng, the drumming, the chatter, the hum of people working and living, are muted, like the city is holding its breath. You sit up slowly, the weight of the night pressing down on your chest. It feels as if the world has paused, waiting for something. Something that hasn't arrived yet, or maybe something that's already passed. The sun hasn't risen yet. That's the first thing you notice. You've always woken up to the sun creeping over the horizon, but today, it's still hidden beneath the thick clouds. The sky is a dull, heavy gray, as though it's refusing to acknowledge the new day. You can't remember the last time you felt such a strange stillness in the air. You stand up, moving quickly to the window, your heart pounding in your chest. The streets are empty, eerily empty. No vendors shouting to attract customers. No children running through the alleys. No workers carrying baskets of corn or weaving fibers into the intricate patterns that make Tenochtitlan Feng famous. It's like everyone has vanished, as if the whole city is waiting for something to happen, or for something to not happen. Your thoughts race back to your cousin. He volunteered yesterday, offered his heart without hesitation, without fear. He gave everything for the gods. His blood was spilled and the sun rose. But now, as you look up at the sky, you wonder, was it enough? Did his sacrifice truly satisfy the gods, or was there something more that was needed? You're not sure how much time passes before you hear footsteps outside, but you're relieved when the familiar sound returns. You step out onto the balcony and look down to see a few people emerging from their homes, rubbing their eyes, stretching, as if waking from a strange dream. But the sun still hasn't come. It's a strange kind of panic that begins to bubble up inside you. The kind of panic you don't admit to even yourself until it's too late. What if the gods didn't accept the offering? What if there's something broken in the cycle that can't be fixed? You swallow hard, trying to shake off the thought. It's foolishness, you tell yourself. The sun always rises. It has for as long as anyone can remember. You push the thoughts aside, but they linger like shadows on the edge of your mind. You step down into the street, determined to find answers. The city is beginning to stir, but it's not the same. People move in a daze, as if they're unsure of how to act, unsure of what's coming next. By the time you reach the temple, you're already out of breath. The priests have gathered in the courtyard, and their expressions are grim. They're speaking in hushed tones, exchanging looks that make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. One of the priests sees you and waves you over, his face tight with worry. You feel it too, don't you? He says in a low voice. Something's wrong. The sun hasn't risen, and no one can figure out why. You nod, the weight of his words sinking in. It's not just you. The whole city feels it. The strange, ominous stillness that's settled over everything. The priests, the warriors, the people, they're all waiting, hoping that the sun will rise as it always has, but no one knows what will happen if it doesn't. Do you think we've done enough? You ask, the question escaping before you can stop it. The priest's eyes flicker with uncertainty. He opens his mouth, but no words come out. He's the one who should have the answer, the one who stands closest to the gods, but even he doesn't know. We're doing everything we can, he finally says. The sacrifices, the prayers, they should have worked. But what if they haven't? What if the gods have grown tired of the endless cycle of blood? What if they've stopped listening? You want to ask these questions, but you know better. Questions like that can get you into trouble. And trouble, here, doesn't just mean punishment. It can mean disappearing entirely. No one questions the gods. Not unless they want to be erased from history. As the minutes pass, and the sun still refuses to rise, the uncertainty begins to grow. People gather in groups, whispering, trying to make sense of it all. The sky, which should be bursting with light, remains cold and empty. You notice a group of children standing nearby, their faces turned upward, waiting for the sun to appear. One child, no older than 5, holds a flower in her hand, and as she gazes at the sky, you can see the confusion in her eyes. She doesn't understand. She doesn't know what's happening, but she knows something is wrong. She holds the flower out to the sky, as if offering it to the gods. You feel a pang of sorrow for her, for the innocence that she doesn't realize is being tested in ways no child should ever know. And then, as if in answer, the clouds begin to part. It's slow at first, like the sky is waking up reluctantly, unsure of what to do. A streak of orange, faint at first, then growing brighter, begins to pierce through the gray. The sun doesn't rise so much as breaks through, like it's forcing its way through a veil that's been too thick for too long. The city gasps. The tension lifts, but only slightly. People start to breathe again, but there's still a feeling in the air, a kind of unease, like something important has been momentarily delayed. The priest next to you sighs in relief, wiping his brow with the back of his hand. "We were right to offer our blood," he says softly. "The sun will rise. It will always rise. But you can't help the nagging feeling that lingers. The sun may have risen. Yes, but the question remains, what happens when the gods are no longer enough?" Historians are still debating the truth of the Aztec belief in the sun and sacrifice. Some believe that it was a literal need to appease the gods, while others think it was more about maintaining order through fear and power. What no one questions, however, is the importance of the blood, how it flowed freely, keeping the sun alive, and, with it, the empire. The question is, was it enough? And if it wasn't, what happens when the gods stop receiving what they need? For now, the sun is back. And maybe that's all that matters. The sun finally broke free of the clouds, and with it, the tension in Tenochtitlan seemed to ease. The city stirred. People returning to their daily tasks, their lives suddenly restored. The sun had risen. Tenochtitlan had been satisfied, at least for today. And yet, something in the back of your mind nags at you, persistent and troubling, like a memory you can't quite place. Your cousin is still gone, his sacrifice hanging over you like a shadow. You can't push away the image of him, his blood spilling for the gods, offering himself so willingly, so eagerly. Was it worth it? You can't answer that. Not yet. Not with the weight of everything that's come before, and the uncertainty that still lingers in the air. It's as if the gods themselves have shaken the heavens, reminding everyone that their power is absolute and terrifying. But for how long? The day continues on, the market fills again. The noise of bargaining and trading replacing the eerie quiet of the morning. The hum of Tenochtitlan is back to normal, but it feels different. You can't quite place it. But there's a heaviness now, an awareness that the city runs on a delicate thread. If the gods are not appeased, if the sacrifices are not made, the sun might just stop rising one day. The thought is so foreign to you, yet it haunts you more than it should. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, you decide to visit the temple. It's not that you expect any answers, but maybe seeing it up close will help you make sense of the chaos inside your head. You need to know that what you witnessed, the sacrifice, your cousin's choice, wasn't in vain. The temple mayor stands tall, an imposing structure that seems to touch the sky itself. You climb the steps slowly, the weight of your thoughts dragging you down with each step. The priests are busy at the top, performing their rituals, their voices rising in a cadence you've heard 1,000 times. But today, their chants sound different, more urgent. The air is thick with the scent of copal, and the smoke swirls around you like it has a life of its own. It feels like a place where the divine and the mortal collide. You stop at the base of the temple, unsure of whether you want to go further. The bloodstains from the ceremony yesterday still mar the stone at the altar. The gods have been fed, but you can't shake the feeling that the offering wasn't enough. The world isn't perfect, and you can feel that now in your bones. You've always believed that sacrifice was part of the natural order, that the gods needed it to survive, just as the people need the gods to survive. But now, you're not so sure. There's a quiet murmur behind you, and you turn to see a group of children playing. They run up the steps of the temple, laughing, chasing each other around like the world is still full of possibility. You wonder if they understand what this place means, what has been asked of those who've gone before them. They seem so innocent, so unaware of the weight that hangs over them, of the cost that comes with living in a world where the gods demand so much. One of the children looks at you, her eyes wide, filled with curiosity. She doesn't know you, but her gaze holds something unspoken, something that reminds you of how small the world can feel and how fragile. She asks, "Why do they need blood?" You're taken aback by the question. It's so simple, so innocent. You wish you had an answer, but you don't. No one truly does. The reasons are buried in the past, wrapped in rituals that have been repeated for generations, passed down from one priest to the next, one ruler to the next, and all you can do is offer your blood, your heart, and trust that it will be enough. They need it, you say slowly, to keep the world alive. Without it, nothing works. The sun doesn't rise. The crops don't grow. The child nods, but you can see the doubt in her eyes. She doesn't understand, and you're not sure you do either. But what else is there to say? The truth as it is too complicated, too painful to explain. So you say nothing more, watching as the children run off again, their laughter echoing through the courtyard. The sun is high in the sky now, casting long shadows across the stone plaza. You stand there for a while longer, lost in your thoughts, the questions swirling around you like the smoke that rises from the altars. You wonder if anyone has ever asked themselves the same things, if anyone has ever dared to question the cycle that has been in place for as long as anyone can remember. You turn to leave, but before you do, you glance back at the altar. The blood has dried, but the stains remain, a constant reminder of the price of survival in this world. As you make your way back down the steps, you can't shake the feeling that something has changed. You don't know if it's the gods or the city, or just you, but something is different. And when the sun finally sets tonight, casting a golden light across the lake, you'll wonder if tomorrow's sacrifice will be enough. If it ever will be. Historians still debate the true extent of the Aztecs' belief in the sun and sacrifice, but the one thing no one argues is that it was a society built on the necessity of giving blood, life, everything, to keep the gods content, to keep the world turning. The question always was, how much more can the people give, and at what cost? For now, the sun still rises, but how long will it keep burning? The morning after the sacrifice is like any other, yet somehow it isn't. The city of Tenochtitlan wakes slowly, stretching its arms into the light of a sun that is, for now, content. The gods are still pleased, and the world hasn't ended, at least not yet. The markets resume their endless hum of activity, and the streets fill with the usual clamor of tradespeople, farmers, and craftsmen. But you can't help but feel that the air is thinner today, that the weight of the gods' presence is heavier than it was before. As you move through the crowds, the usual familiar sights, vendors hawking bright flowers, children playing in the streets, temple attendants weaving through the throngs of people, seem more distant. As if you're seeing them through a veil, the city is alive. Yes, but there's a quietness beneath the surface, a sense that everything is held together by a delicate thread, and that thread is made of blood. You can still feel the echo of yesterday's ceremony, the sight of your cousin's body being carried away, the sharp glint of the obsidian blade as it sliced through the air. His sacrifice wasn't just a ritual, it was a statement. An offering of his life, his very blood, to keep the world turning. And now, the question lingers. Was it enough? The question feels silly as soon as it enters your mind. You know what the priests would say. Of course it's enough. The gods always take what they need. The sun rises. The crops grow. Life continues. But as you walk through the marketplace, you wonder if it will ever feel like enough. Will the gods ever stop asking for more? You pass by a group of traders, their brightly colored fabrics spread out across the ground like a living rainbow. They greet you with nods and smiles, and for a moment, you consider stopping to buy something. A small distraction, maybe, a new set of beads or a woven mat for your family, but you can't. You've seen too much, felt too much in the last 24 hours to think about anything so trivial. Instead, you find yourself walking toward the lake, the quiet waters reflecting the cloudless sky. The city is built on this lake, and the water flows through it like lifeblood. It is the foundation of everything, the reason Tenochtitlan exists, the reason the people here live and breathe. But the lake doesn't care about sacrifices. It doesn't care about gods or ceremonies. It simply is, and that, in some strange way, is both comforting and unsettling. You sit by the edge of the water, your feet dangling just above the surface, and watch the ripples stretch outward, distorting the reflection of the city. The stillness of the water calms you, and yet it deepens the uncertainty in your chest. The sacrifice is over, but the gods still require more. The world still demands blood. And you're not sure how long the people of Tenochtitlan can continue to offer it, how long they can keep feeding this cycle of gods and sacrifice, before they too begin to wonder whether it's all worth it. The wind picks up, rippling the surface of the water, and you pull your shawl tighter around your shoulders, as though trying to shield yourself from the weight of your own thoughts. You're not sure why it feels like the world has shifted. Maybe it's just the culmination of everything you've seen, everything you've heard, but something inside you tells you that things are changing. The idea of sacrifice isn't new. It's been with you since birth, woven into the very fabric of your life. You've always known that the gods require blood, that the sun won't rise unless the people offer up their hearts, their lives. But now, as you sit by the lake, the truth feels more suffocating than ever before. It's not just about rituals and ceremonies, it's about survival. It's about feeding the gods so that you can live another day. And that's all there is. There is no escape from it, no way out of the cycle. You either give what's required or you watch the world fall apart. A ripple in the water catches your eye, and you glance down. It's nothing, just a fish swimming lazily beneath the surface. But for a brief moment, you imagine what it might be like to be that fish. To live without the weight of the gods, without the knowledge that you are part of something much larger than yourself. It's a fleeting thought, and it vanishes as quickly as it came. You stand, brushing the dirt from your tunic, and make your way back toward the center of the city. The sun is still high in the sky, its light now warm and steady, casting long shadows on the stone streets. The people of Tenochtitlan are going about their lives, just as they always have, without question, without pause. But you can't shake the feeling that there's something else at play here, something ancient, something beyond the rituals and the gods. It's not just the sacrifice, it's the belief. The people here live by it, die by it, and yet, they never question it. Not even the priests, who stand at the top of the pyramid, surrounded by the blood of their people, ever ask if it's enough. And maybe that's the real question. Is it enough? You don't know. You can't know, but you do know one thing, until the gods stop demanding. The cycle will continue, the sacrifices will be made, the blood will flow, and the sun will rise. For now, that's enough. But for how long? Historians still debate whether the Aztecs truly believed that their sacrifices kept the sun alive, or if it was a complex social and political structure built on fear, unity, and power. Some think it was a literal necessity, others believe it was a tool to control the masses. But the truth remains elusive. The question of whether the gods were truly appeased by the blood spilled remains unanswered, and maybe, in the end, it doesn't matter. What matters is that the cycle continues. For now, the sun will rise again tomorrow, but someday, it might not. The next few days pass in a blur, the rhythm of life in Tenochtitlan resuming as it always does after the festivals, after the rituals, after the sun rises once more. The markets are alive with the same buzz, the streets filled with the same faces. The gods are pleased, the cycle continues, and everyone seems content to return to their daily tasks, their hearts lightened by the knowledge that the sun will rise again. But for you, nothing is the same. You've tried to move forward, to push the thoughts of your cousin's sacrifice from your mind, but they linger in the corners of your consciousness like shadows that refuse to be shaken off. It's not just that he gave everything for the gods, not just that he volunteered. It's the realization that, in his mind, he did the right thing. He had to. He believed, as everyone else did, that the sun could not rise without that offering, without the blood, and yet, even now, as you walk through the familiar streets, you can't help but wonder, what if he was wrong? The city is bustling, as always, but it feels distant, as if you're walking through it from a dream. The noise is muffled, the colors a little less bright. It's the kind of feeling you get when something has shifted in the very fabric of the world. But no one notices because they're too busy living in the moment. You're not sure how to explain it to yourself. You can't shake the weight of your cousin's absence, the hole his sacrifice has left in your life. And yet, part of you feels guilty for questioning it. After all, the gods have their needs, the sun requires its nourishment. And who are you to doubt that? You're walking past the temple when you hear the drums begin again. It's not a festival this time, not a sacrifice. Just the usual rhythm, the heartbeat of the city, the reminder that everything is held together by something larger than yourself. But today, the sound of the drums hits differently. It feels heavier, more urgent, as though the gods themselves are calling for something that hasn't been given yet. You walk toward the source of the sound, your feet carrying you without thinking, drawn to the temple as if something is pulling you toward it. When you arrive, you see that the priests are gathered in their usual spot, their faces painted in the intricate designs that mark them as the chosen of the gods. But today, there's a difference in their demeanor. They seem restless. The energy in the air is thick, like a storm is about to break. You stand at the edge of the crowd, watching as the priests chant, their voices rising and falling in the ancient rhythm of devotion. One of the high priests steps forward, his eyes scanning the gathered people. He raises his hands, and the chanting stops, leaving only the sound of the wind and the distant murmur of the crowd. There is a great demand for blood. The high priest announces, his voice booming across the plaza. The gods have spoken. The sun requires more. A wave of murmurs ripples through the crowd. You feel your heart beat faster. What does this mean? The gods are always hungry, but today, it feels different. This isn't just another sacrifice. This is something more. We must prepare. The high priest continues. For a greater offering, we must give more than we ever have before, or the sun will not rise again. The cycle depends on it. The balance will be lost. You stand frozen. Your mind racing. The sun, has always been fed by blood. Yes, but what does it mean that it now demands more? You remember the stories of the previous suns, the ones that were destroyed by too much fire, too much water, too much hunger. The idea that the gods could turn on you, that they could demand more than you had to give, makes your stomach turn. The high priest raises his hands again, signaling for silence. The time has come for the greatest sacrifice, he says, his voice solemn. A new offering, one that will ensure the sun remains strong. We will offer the most sacred of gifts, ourselves. The crowd is silent, the air thick with fear and anticipation. You glance around trying to gauge the reactions of the people around you. Some are nodding, as if this is exactly what they expected. Others stand frozen, the color draining from their faces. It's clear that this announcement has struck a chord with everyone. The sacrifice is no longer just about the blood of the captured or the volunteers. Now, the people themselves will be asked to give everything, not just for the sun, but for the world. You don't know what to feel, fear, panic, or maybe, strangely, relief. Because in this moment, it seems like everything you've been questioning, everything that's felt uncertain, is now laid bare. The gods will always demand more. The cycle will never stop. The only question is who will be chosen to feed it. The drums begin again, their rhythm louder now, almost deafening, as if calling you to step forward. You try to move, to leave, but your feet feel rooted to the ground, as though the weight of the decision has already been made for you. You're not sure if you're ready to give everything. No one can ever be ready for that. But you're here now, and there's no turning back. The high priest's voice echoes across the plaza, his words slicing through the tension like a blade. Who among you will step forward? Who will give their blood to save us all? You can feel the gaze of the crowd on you, their eyes filled with expectation, with fear. But for the first time since your cousin's sacrifice, you feel something else. A stirring, deep inside you, a recognition of the price that has been asked, and the price that will come. The gods will always demand more, and someday, you will be asked to give. Historians debate whether the Aztecs truly believed the sun could die, or whether the need for sacrifice was more about maintaining social order. Some argue that it was a political tool to consolidate power, others that it was rooted in a deep spiritual understanding of the world. But as you stand here, in the temple courtyard, it becomes clear, belief and necessity are one and the same. The sun rises because the people give, and the cycle continues. But what happens when the people can no longer give? The air in the plaza thickens, heavy with the weight of what's being asked. The high priest's eyes scan the crowd, searching for a volunteer, his gaze lingering longer on the faces of those closest to the altar. His words echo, resonating through the city, through the stone streets, the reed huts, and the vast lake that supports Tenochtitlan. Who will step forward? He calls again, his voice ringing with an authority that forces everyone to pause. It's not just a question now, it's an ultimatum. The sun demands more, and the gods do not wait. You can feel the crowd's collective breath held, their hearts thudding in unison with the drum beats. It's a moment of silence that stretches on, unbearable, thick with tension, and for the first time since your cousin's sacrifice, you find yourself feeling something else, something sharp, something real, that gnaws at your insides. Fear. The people here have lived their lives in the shadow of the gods, following the rituals, fulfilling the demands. It's the way of the world, the only way they've ever known. But now, something feels different. There's a desperation in the high priest's voice, an urgency in the air. It's not just another ceremony, it's not just a small offering. This time, the gods are asking for more. This time, they're asking for everything. The silence grows longer, suffocating, no one moves. You can hear the rustling of cloth, the slight murmur of voices, but no one is brave enough, or perhaps foolish enough, to step forward. Then in the middle of the crowd you see her, a woman, no older than you, with dark hair braided down her back, and a face that is both resolute and terrified. She steps forward, slowly at first, then with more confidence, her feet carrying her toward the altar. Her eyes are focused, and there's no hesitation in her movements. She's made her decision. You feel your heart race as she moves. There's something about her, something about the way she walks with purpose. Despite the fear in her eyes, she's volunteering herself. She's offering her blood, her life, to keep the sun alive, to ensure that the gods remain pleased. She is willing to give everything. The high priest watches her, a solemn nod of approval crossing his face. The gods will accept your sacrifice, he intones. You have chosen to feed the sun. As she reaches the altar, the drums grow louder, the rhythm becoming more frantic, more insistent. The people around you are holding their breath, waiting for what will come next. You, too, can't look away. The woman kneels before the altar, and the priest steps forward, raising the obsidian blade high. The crowd is silent now, each person lost in their own thoughts, their own fears, their own understanding of what this moment means. And then, without a second of hesitation, the priest brings the blade down. The world seems to pause for a heartbeat, suspended in time, as the blood begins to flow. The woman's sacrifice is swift, dignified. The moment is intense, but strangely, it doesn't feel like the tragedy you imagined. It's something different. It's the fulfillment of a promise, the completion of an ancient cycle. The gods are fed, the sun is pleased. For today, at least everything is right in the world. The high priest raises her heart, his voice lifting in a chant that seems to reach into the very heavens themselves. The crowd falls to their knees in reverence, and you follow suit. Though part of you feels like you're outside of it all. Like you've been cast adrift in a sea of tradition and belief that you're struggling to navigate. As the ceremony comes to an end, the woman's body is carried away, her blood staining the stone of the altar, marking her as a true offering. The drums begin to slow, the sound becoming a distant echo as the crowd slowly stands and begins to move away, returning to their homes, to their lives, to the cycle that never ends. You remain at the edge of the plaza, watching as the people file out. The sun is still shining, but it feels different now. The light is harsh, unforgiving, as if the gods themselves are watching to see who will rise to meet their demands. You turn to leave, your feet carrying you away from the temple, but your mind remains fixed on the woman's sacrifice. Her blood, her life, given freely, without question. She did what was asked, what was expected. But you can't shake the feeling that she gave more than she should have. And for the first time, you wonder what the gods would do if they no longer had to ask. What if, one day, there were no volunteers left? What if the people stopped offering their blood? What would happen to the sun, to the cycle, to the world? You stop walking and glance up at the sky, the same sky that has watched over this city for centuries. The sun is still high above, burning as it always has, but for a moment, you're not sure how long it will last. The truth of the matter is, no one really knows. Historians still argue about whether the Aztecs truly believed the sun needed human blood to rise, or if it was a deeply ingrained social construct to maintain control. Some say it was a powerful form of psychological manipulation, while others argue it was a practical, even necessary part of life. But as you stand there, looking up at the sun, you realize the truth doesn't matter. What matters is that the cycle continues, because that is what keeps the world in motion. But even as the drums fade into the distance, you can't shake the question that keeps creeping into your mind: how long will it last? The city, though seemingly unchanged, feels different today. The weight of the offering from yesterday hangs in the air like the heavy scent of copal smoke, thick and lingering. The gods are satisfied for now, the sun still blazing high, but a part of you can't shake the sense that something has shifted. Maybe it's the knowledge that another life was given. One more step in the endless cycle of blood. One more soul sacrificed for the sake of the sun. Or maybe it's just the nagging feeling that no matter how many times the gods are fed, the balance is delicate, fragile. As you walk through the streets, the usual bustle of Tenochtitlan continues around you. The merchants are hawking their goods, the children are laughing and chasing one another, and the priests, still adorned in their ceremonial regalia, move through the crowd, their faces unreadable. Life is normal, or at least it seems that way. But you can't help but notice the change in the eyes of the people. There's a certain heaviness to their expressions, a kind of quiet resignation that lingers in the spaces between their words. You make your way to the market, feeling the familiar warmth of the sun on your skin, the heat that's always there, constant and reliable. But today, the heat feels like something more. It's not just the sun. It's the weight of the world. The unspoken truth that this empire, this city, thrives on the backs of sacrifices, on the blood of those willing to give everything. You pause by a stall selling pottery, idly inspecting the bright, intricate designs. The merchant smiles at you, his weathered face warm with recognition. Buy something today? He asks, his voice friendly, but there's an edge to it. Something in his eyes that makes you wonder if he's noticed the same thing you have. The hesitation in the air, the quiet fear. You shake your head, offering a small smile in return. Not today, just looking. He nods, but his smile fades as you turn away. It's a fleeting moment, but it makes you uneasy. There's something in the air, something that everyone can feel but no one is willing to say out loud. You continue through the market, but your thoughts are elsewhere. You think about the sacrifice, the woman who volunteered, who gave everything without hesitation. You think about your cousin, who believed with all his heart that the sun would not rise without the blood. And now, you're left wondering, was that all there is? A never-ending cycle of offering and taking of blood and life, for a son that can never be satisfied. The more you think about it, the more you feel a growing unease. There is a part of you, deep inside, that questions whether this is really how it must be. The gods are always hungry. But what if there comes a day when the people no longer have enough to give? What happens then? You stop walking, your feet carrying you toward the edge of the city, where the stone roads turn into the muddy paths that lead to the outer villages. The city's heartbeat fades into the distance, and the weight of the questions pressing down on your chest grows heavier. You wonder if you're the only one thinking this way. Are there others who feel it too? Others who are starting to wonder whether the sun's hunger will ever be satisfied? Or are you just an anomaly? A voice lost in the chorus of unquestioning devotion. You reach the lake's edge, the water still and glassy under the bright sun. It mirrors the sky almost perfectly, except for the occasional ripple that disturbs the surface. The calm of the water contrasts sharply with the turmoil swirling inside you. You sit down on the ground, your legs crossed beneath you, and stare out at the lake, watching the water stretch out into the horizon. This is where the world begins and ends, you think. The city is built on the water sustained by it. Yet it's the sacrifices that keep the sun alive. The cycle of life and death is mirrored here, on the surface of the lake. The gods demand blood to keep the world turning, but what happens when that blood runs out? Will the gods still care? Will the sun still rise? The sound of footsteps behind you breaks your thoughts. You turn, startled, to see an older woman approaching, her face familiar. It's your grandmother. Her eyes are calm, but there's a quiet sadness in them that makes your heart twist. She sits down next to you, her movements slow but sure. For a moment, neither of you speaks. The only sound is the soft rustle of the reeds in the breeze, and the occasional splash of water against the shore. Finally, she speaks, her voice low but steady. You're wondering, aren't you? She says, her gaze fixed on the horizon. If the gods are pleased, if the sun will continue to rise, if there's enough blood to feed them. You don't answer right away. You don't need to. She already knows. She's lived through this, just as you have. She's seen the sacrifices, the blood, the offerings. She's watched the sun rise every day, without fail. You're not the only one. She continues, her voice barely above a whisper. I've seen it in the eyes of others too. The fear, the doubt. They don't speak it out loud, but it's there. The belief is wearing thin. You turn to her, searching her face for something. Anything that might explain the question that has been haunting you. But why? You ask. Why do we have to keep giving? The gods are never satisfied. The sun always demands more. When will it be enough? She sighs, her gaze still on the water. I've asked that same question many times in my life. And the answer, my dear, is that it will never be enough. The gods are infinite, and their hunger is endless. As long as we live under their gaze, we will give, and we will keep giving. That's the way of the world. Her words settle into your chest like stones. You knew this, but hearing it from her, someone who has lived through countless cycles of sacrifice, makes it feel heavier, more real. The gods will always demand. The sun will always need its blood. And someday, you too, will be asked to give. You're not sure how to respond. So you say nothing. Instead, you sit in silence with your grandmother. Both of you staring at the lake, knowing that the cycle will continue, whether you understand it or not. And for now, that is enough. Historians still debate whether the Aztec system of sacrifice was a truly spiritual necessity, or if it was more of a political tool, something designed to bind the people to their rulers, to maintain order, to ensure the empire's survival. But in the end, no one really knows. All that is certain is that the sun will rise, and the sacrifices will continue. For now, that's enough. The following days pass by in a blur. The city of Tenochtitlan slowly resuming its usual rhythm. The usual noise fills the air. The calls of the merchants, the chatter of the children, the busy hum of life. The sun continues its journey across the sky, just as it always has. And yet, despite all appearances, you can't shake the feeling that something has changed. The gods have been fed. The sacrifice has been made. The sun is still alive, still burning brightly. But for the first time, you wonder, is this enough? The gods demand more, always more. But what happens when the people can no longer give? What happens when there's no more blood to offer, when the gods have eaten their fill and the people are left with nothing but empty hearts? The question gnaws at you, and you feel it in your chest every time you pass by the altar, every time you see the priests in their ceremonial garb. You know they're just doing what's expected of them, just following the ancient rituals. But you wonder, is this truly the only way? You pass by the temple one afternoon, the familiar rhythm of the drums filling the air. The high priests are gathered at the top, performing their daily rituals. But today, something feels different. The air is thick with tension, as if the gods themselves are watching, waiting to see if the people will continue to offer what is asked of them. The crowd is gathered, but there's a sense of unease among them. No one is speaking, no one is laughing. The marketplace, usually so full of life and energy, feels oddly still, as if the very air has been drained of its usual vibrancy. You approach the temple steps slowly, feeling the weight of the question that has been haunting you for days. What if this is the last offering? What if the gods have finally decided that enough is enough? What if, one day, the people refuse to give? What will happen then? At the base of the steps, you stop and look up at the towering structure. It's a monument to the gods, a testament to the power and the fear they command. The blood of countless sacrifices has stained the stones. The lives of so many have been offered up to ensure the sun's rise. But for how long can the people keep giving? You turn away from the temple, your feet carrying you down the path that leads to the outskirts of the city. The lake stretches before you, its surface calm and still. The sun is beginning to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the water. The sky is painted in hues of gold and crimson, as if the gods themselves are painting their own farewell to the day. You sit by the edge of the water, watching the ripples spread across the surface, disturbed only by the occasional fish leaping out of the water. You feel a strange sense of peace here, away from the noise of the city, away from the rituals and the demands of the gods. But even here, in the stillness of the lake, you can't escape the question that lingers in your mind. How long will this last? The sun continues to set, and you think about the sacrifices that have been made, the blood that has been spilled. You think about your cousin, the woman who gave everything, and the countless others who have offered their lives to ensure the sun's rise. You think about the city, about the empire, and the people who live here, bound together by a cycle of belief and fear. What will happen when the blood runs out? What will happen when there's nothing left to give? You don't have the answers. You never will. But as you sit by the water, you realize that maybe, just maybe, it doesn't matter. The gods will always demand more. The sun will always need its blood. The question is not whether the people will give, but whether they will continue to believe. And for now, the people of Tenochtitlan continue to believe. They continue to offer their blood, their lives to keep the world turning, to keep the sun rising. It's the way of the world, the way it has always been. And maybe, that's enough. Historians still debate whether the Aztecs truly believed that the sun needed human sacrifice to survive, or if it was a tool to maintain control over the people, to ensure their loyalty to the gods and the rulers. But in the end, it doesn't matter. What matters is that the sacrifices continue, the sun rises, and the world moves forward. For now, the cycle is intact. And that's enough. The days stretch into weeks, and yet, there's still something unsettled deep inside you. The city continues on. Life pulses through the streets, through the temples, through the very heart of Tenochtitlan. But the air feels different. It's not just the sun hanging lower in the sky, or the changing light of the season. It's the realization that the cycle is fragile, too fragile, and one day it might crack. The question lingers, like a shadow you can't shake. When will it be enough? You've spent most of your life following the rhythms of this place, the offerings, the ceremonies, the blood. It was always just part of the way things were. The gods demanded. The people gave. The sun rose. But now, you're starting to wonder if that's really all there is to it. You walk through the marketplace one morning, the heat of the sun pressing down, but the day feels strange. People are moving faster than usual, their voices low, their steps hurried. You glance around, trying to catch the pulse of the city, but something feels off. There's a tension in the air, an unease that wasn't there before. The market stalls are full of goods, of fruits and textiles, of pottery and woven baskets, but the usual cheerful bartering is muted today. Everyone seems to be looking over their shoulder, as if waiting for something to happen. You wonder if they feel it too. The same weight on their chests, the same uncertainty that has been gnawing at you for days. As you pass by a stall selling brightly colored flowers, you overhear two women talking in hushed tones. Their conversation is quiet enough that you can't catch all of it, but the words sacrifice and offering stand out. What if they ask too much this time? One of the women says, her voice trembling with fear. What if the gods want more than we can give? Her friend, looking uneasy, nods. They always want more. But what can we do? The sun won't rise without it. You don't stay to hear more. You don't need to. The fear in their voices is enough. The gods are asking for more, and the people are beginning to wonder how long they can keep giving. But no one dares to question it outright, because that's how the cycle works. Through fear, through obedience, through the unspoken understanding that the gods will always require more. And yet, here you are, asking the same question that those women asked in whispered tones. What if the gods ask too much this time? You make your way to the edge of the city, the familiar path toward the lake. The sound of the market fades behind you, replaced by the gentle lapping of water against the shore. The air here is calmer, the breeze carrying the scent of earth and water. You sit on the ground, your legs crossed beneath you, and watch the lake stretch out before you, its surface smooth and undisturbed. The sun is high in the sky now, but it doesn't feel as warm as it once did. It's not just the heat of the day, it's the heat of a world that has been spinning on the same axis for far too long. The gods demand, the people give, and the world keeps turning. But what happens when the people can't give anymore? You think about the sacrifices you've seen, your cousins, the woman who offered herself, the countless others whose blood has stained the stone altars. You think about the gods, always hungry, always requiring more. But who decides when it's enough? Who decides when the offering has been made, when the blood has been spilled, and the sun has been fed? You glance out at the horizon, the vastness of the lake stretching before you, and for a moment you wonder if it's all just an illusion. The sun will always rise, they say. But will it? Will the gods keep demanding? Or will there come a time when the people can no longer answer the call? The thought hangs in the air, thick and heavy, and for the first time in your life, you feel the weight of it. The world is built on belief, on the understanding that the gods must be appeased, that the sun must be fed. But what happens when the belief begins to wane? When the offering is no longer enough, you don't have an answer. No one does. The cycle continues, one sacrifice after another, until it doesn't. Until there's no more blood to give. And yet, in the distance, the drums begin to play again, slow and steady, filling the air with their rhythm, with their unyielding insistence. The gods will always demand, the priests will always answer, and the sun will continue to rise for now. You rise from your spot at the edge of the lake, the weight of the question still sitting heavy in your chest. The world keeps turning. The sacrifices keep coming, and somewhere, in the distance, the gods are waiting, their hunger unquenchable. You walk back toward the city, the sound of the drums growing louder as you approach. You don't have the answers, but you know one thing, the cycle won't stop. It never does. Historians still debate whether the Aztecs believed that the sun's rise was truly dependent on the sacrifices they made, or whether the rituals were a tool to maintain control, a method of ensuring the people stayed bound to the empire and its gods. But the truth remains unclear. What is certain, however, is that the people believed it. They gave everything, blood, life, and soul, to keep the sun alive, to keep the world turning. And for now, that was enough. But how long will it last?